Hey guys! So ever since Superman came out, the main topic of conversation has been Batman. Who is going to complete our world's finest? Who is going to stand next to David Cornsweet? How is the costume going to look? How is the Bat family going to be handled? All that good stuff. So I thought now's as good a time as any to discuss what really is going on with the DCU Batman and, most importantly, who should play him. So that's what this video is about. This is a sequel to the Wonder Woman video I made, so make sure to go check that one out as well. And make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this video at any point. So, The Brave and the Bold was originally announced with the initial slate of the Gods and Monsters saga, but since then, it's seemingly been in development hell as no writer was attached, and it was radio silent, which led to the eventual build-up of speculation of a potential merger, which I'm a proud merger bro, since the combo of Pattinson and Cornsweet is perfect to me. But recently, James Gunn finally concretely denied the merge properly, after years of slyly avoiding questions on this topic. He also said that a secret writer along with him were working on a script currently, which was recently revealed to be Christina Hodson. Yeah, that Christina Hodson. But alas, I made a short on this topic, so make sure to go check that out if you want my in-depth thoughts. But I don't want to be too negative in this video, so we're just gonna have to accept it and move on. Now that we know that it's being written and the creative team is still intact, including Andy Muschietti as director, we can speculate when it will release, which I personally think is going to be Halloween of 2028. I think that Wonder Woman and The Brave and the Bold are going to be the two big movies of 2028 since they are the only ones in active development right now and are being prioritized. The only thing that gives me pause about this is that they may not want two Batman films in back-to-back years in sort of the same time slot, so I could see early 2029 as well. The actor is likely to be cast by the end of the year though, maybe right before New Year's like James Gunn did for Brainiac at the end of 2025, but I'm pretty sure Batman will still appear in Clayface. Probably not in person with an actor, but maybe in shadow or a blurry sequence or an action sequence where you can't really tell his face, something to that effect. He will definitely be named though and mentioned throughout the film, as that movie is essentially gonna flesh out Gotham City in the DCU. He will also probably appear in Man of Tomorrow, as many rumors suggest, for a cameo, as he is likely to be cast before filming wraps, and it would be a missed opportunity to not see the whole Trinity show up together in that big budget, big scale movie to tease the future of the DCU and maybe a Justice League down the line. Brave and the Bold certainly is an interesting choice though. Starting off with Damian means skipping a whole load of Batman stories and characters and having the Bat family fully established already. On one hand, seeing the Bat family in live action would be magical, but I would have liked to see their characters develop, seeing Dick's journey from Robin to Nightwing, seeing a death in the family, seeing Barbara become Batgirl, then have her heart-wrenchingly become paralyzed and find her true power as Oracle. It's a bummer that we have to miss out on these extremely iconic Bat family moments that have yet to appear in live action, but at the same time, jumping right into a sprawling Bat family pre-established is also exciting, but poses the question of who will actually show up in this film. Do they even have the time and budget to include everyone? I think this movie will only include Dick, Damian, Bruce, and Talia, as the movie is likely to be centered around Bruce and Damian's relationship and the Al Ghuls. I would also want them to include Oracle, personally, and then wait for sequels to eventually introduce Tim and Jason in live action. James Gunn, being a comic book fan himself, is less likely to skip over a Robin, which was a big fear for me and lots of other comic book fans, since we're condensing decades of Batman storytelling to a relatively young Batman in his mid-30s. I want the Bat family members to also be able to pop up in other projects in the DCU as well. I want Barbara to be an eventual Birds of Prey project with Black Canary. I want to see Dick, Damian, and Tim appear in different iterations of the Titans too. I just want them to be sprinkled throughout different movies of the DCU. As for Batman himself, I want this Batman to be fully fantastical. Batman should almost feel supernatural himself, like a force of nature. We still haven't had a Batman that can realistically be portrayed as having complex psychological human adversaries, but also be able to fight cosmic threats alongside Superman and the other Justice League members. Enough with the realistic, gritty takes. I want the extravagant playboy, cocky Bruce Wayne with the colorful crime-fighting duo of Batman and Robin, who take on metahumans like Poison Ivy, Clayface, Man-Bat, Mr. Freeze, the list goes on. I'm not too sure who the villain of this film specifically should be, as we know Talia and Ra's al Ghul will probably play a large part, and hopefully it's a mystery that includes a plethora of Batman villains. Like how they're doing with the upcoming Spider-Man Brand New Day, I want this film to at least have a montage showing Batman and Robin throughout the years, taking down different Batman rogues. As for the costume, I like the blue and gray, but I would prefer the gray and black colors to make it so Batman and Superman don't match too much, which might be a controversial take, but I think the contrast of the black and blue visually would work really well in live action. I also want full gadgets on display. Him grappling and gliding around, smoke bombs, different types of batarangs for surveillance, explosions, sticky batarangs. I want him to have everything he needs to survive any situation possible in his utility belt. He would be a self-sufficient machine, but it still shouldn't take away from the fact that even without his suit, he can wreck your shit hand to hand. So now what you've all been waiting for. As for the casting itself, let me preface this first by saying my personal requirements for the role. I want someone with a personality off screen as well, something to offer. The main thing about David Cornsweet was that he was a likable nerd in real life and had a wholesome quality to him, which allowed him to build a fan base and for him to be accepted as Superman. He had his quirks, which I would also look for in a Batman actor as well. For example, Robert Pattinson, who also has a similar likable quality and isn't afraid to take on unique roles and be a bit quirky too, which works for his depiction as Batman. I want someone who isn't just in it for superficial purposes to play Batman, the aura farming dude who beats up criminals. He needs to understand that this is an extremely multifaceted role. We need someone who can play a clean-cut, charming philanthropist playboy at the Gotham Gala, while also being an extremely layered, calculating performance as Batman, who can be scary and intimidating, but also have a sort of underlying warmth and softness to him as well when dealing with Damian or with children. And I want someone who will play him with those things in mind and not just in a very one-note surface level way. Personally, I think all three of our modern live-action Batman have all around been pretty good adaptations. The legacy of Batman in live action is pretty legendary, consisting of very highly regarded, talented actors. This is not a light task. The Dark Knight is obviously one of the best comic book films ever made. Ben Affleck is the best live-action Bruce Wayne we have had to date, and Robert Pattinson did a great job depicting a sort of younger Batman before fully developing his personas as both Batman and Bruce Wayne. So I'll keep that in mind when discussing my picks. Jake Gyllenhaal, Theo James, and Jensen Ackles. Maybe a decade ago, yeah, they would have been great, but they're just a bit too old to be contemporaries with David Cornsweet, and wouldn't really make sense, although they all have qualities which would make them great for the role. Aaron Taylor Johnson is also a popular pick. I see the appeal, but I think he's just been in one too many franchises and one too many flops at this point to start fresh with this role, and his recent debacle with Craven doesn't really help his case either. I could see it, but I prefer someone with a sort of fresher face and less baggage to deal with. Jacob Elordi is also an interesting pick, following on from the teen heartthrob turned serious actor pathway that Robert Pattinson laid. He has proved himself in the acting department and has a pretty large Gen Z fan base behind him. He would be a fresh face, but I think he's a bit too young already to be at Damian, and he's too similar to Robert Pattinson. And I think he would probably want to do a few more serious roles before locking himself into a franchise contract for a decade. Oliver Jackson Cohen is also a pretty popular pick, which I can see. I'm 50-50 on him. I definitely see how visually he does have vibes of someone from the Batman world, but I personally picture him more as a rogue, like Two-Face or Tommy Elliott as Hush, or something along those lines. His performance in The Invisible Man also adds to this, where he plays the villain and a character that could low-key be right out of Gotham City. I could see him as Batman too, so I'm not mad at it, but I'm not crazy about it either, and want to see him more in a villainous role. Next we have Tom Bateman, who I'm not really the most knowledgeable on, so I'm pretty much going purely off of looks, and I think he could be a good option. I'm not qualified to talk on him since I haven't seen him in anything, but he looks the part, I guess, and if he can act, then I wouldn't be mad at it. Now for the three main contenders, and I have a lot to say. First, let's get Nate Mann out of the way. There is one photo shoot where he looks pretty Batman-like, and his acting ability from the clips I've seen is pretty decent. But when I look at other pics, he does not look like Batman at all. He looks a bit too young, And maybe in the next DC reboot, he could be Batman. But as of now, I'm not really too sure besides that one photo that people keep reusing. He just doesn't fit Batman besides that one photo shoot, so I can't really give it to him. Let's finally talk about Brandon Sklenar, who, if you follow me on Twitter, you know my opinions on it. But let me put it simply. He says that he has knowledge about the character and he's a big fan, but his views on him seem like he thinks he's just a brutal dark aura farmer, which couldn't really be further from the truth if you've picked up a single comic in your life.
Like more true to the comic. I love Christian's version is probably my favorite version of Batman, but I'd want him to see, like, lean more into like Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne, how he's in the comics, and then make Batman as dark as possible.
And he's just clamoring for the role a bit too hard, which would give anyone a bit of a bad stench. As for his acting ability, he can pull off a brooding man pretty well, I guess, but I've seen nothing from him which indicates any other layers or that he could pull off the multiple other facets of Bruce Wayne. I think he's purely picked because of his physique and the fact that he can bring the most physicality to the role and his deep voice, which I respect, but when I look at him and his previous roles, he is the definition of a rugged Texan farm boy type, which is far from what Bruce Wayne is, who's a clean-cut rich kid. This tweet kind of puts it perfectly, which I'll give you guys a second to read. People who want him in the role just think he's the epitome of manliness and want to picture themselves as Batman, which is fine, but for me personally, it's an extremely vapid and ridiculous concept and I just can't get behind it. He also doesn't look the part whatsoever, and people have tried to compare comic panels with him and I just don't see the resemblance. They have to resort to using AI edits of him which completely change his facial structure to show that he looks similar to Bruce Wayne. Even if you were able to recreate that with the power of makeup and hairstyling, the fact that you would have to give him such an extreme makeover itself should disqualify him fundamentally. Seeing interviews of him also, he just seems like a very shallow, like regular man, which there's nothing much going on with him, nothing for really fandoms to grasp onto or give him any presence beyond the screen. And having a bit of a boring person play Batman, that would just be kind of a bummer. I don't hate him. I think he's perfect for some other roles like Wildcat, which people have said, and even Aquaman, he would be a solid pick. But he is just not Batman to me personally. And lastly, we have Paul Kelly. My feelings for him as Batman have fluctuated over the past few weeks a lot because initially he was instantly skyrocketed to be the #1 spot because he just looks exactly like Batman. But recently his acting ability has really been put into question as more and more scenes of his show have come out, and let me just show you.
Shit.
What a woman.
Fucking chump, it's humiliating.
You don't think I know that?
Why can't we just love each other?
So now people are calling him the male Gal Gadot, and I can't really argue with that, and it just frustrates me because we finally had Bruce Wayne ripped from the comics, but somehow, some way, it hasn't worked out. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that at every turn, like, all roads seem to lead to Brandon Sklenar, and I just have to accept that he's pretty much the only reasonable choice and is very likely to be the one who is cast in the role, no matter how much I personally have my gripes against him. But even though that's the case, I'm still holding out hope for an unknown actor, someone off of Broadway or something like that, to come in and meet all the criteria and be perfect. So that's my #1 pick, an unknown or an up-and-coming actor. But no matter who is cast, I'll say that they need to be ready to be compared heavily to Robert Pattinson, and as much as the merger haters might say, naturally having two simultaneous Batman will A, hurt each other, and B, will lead to natural comparison. Who is a better Batman? Whose movies are better? And we already know that Robert Pattinson's films are great, so it's gonna be really hard for DCU to match that level of quality, especially with the current creative team involved, and I just hope that they can deliver, because if not, they will be eaten alive by every James Gunn hater and all the Pattinson fans. So that's all we know about the current state of the DCU's Batman. Let me know what you guys think about all this and who should play Batman, and I'll see you guys in the next video.